an important point of our process really was actually the sort of foundation, was because of lockdown and because of not being able to meet, we decided to start a lockdown journal, which was an online journal, which we made a couple of rules at the beginning, which was we didn't have to do it every day. We could just respond to the other person. We had as a Google document. We just wrote backwards and forwards to each other. And it had quotations, confessions, angers, all sorts of things in it, jokes, whatever was, and that, I think, one of the interesting things about the pandemic is it's sort of the process of being locked down
happening
gave us a sort of almost a freedom or a shortcut to intimacy, maybe. And so this lockdown journal in the end went for days and days and days and days and days, months, and we ended up with this huge bank of source material, which we then went back to, and that became the source material for nearly all the poems. Actually, was often where the seed was planted in something that one or other of us said. So the lockdown journal was a very important part of our process. Yeah.
And I don't know if other people here found this, but essentially having a pandemic where so many people's lives were threatened, where and many people were dying, and where everything was changed, that suddenly the first layer of polite communication, or the way of hiding some of what we felt, kind of went out the window, because it was a more raw time for everybody. So I think that probably enabled us to become more intimate more quickly than we would have done in another time.
Great, thank you. I've got a question here from the chat. So this is for everybody, actually. So how do you deal with disagreements? How do you know when something is done? Is it obvious, or does it take a bit of figuring out? And that's from Pascal. Thanks, Pascal.
Who are you asking?
Well, do you want to go? How do you deal with disagreements? How do you know when it's done?
Oh,
it's slightly different for enjambments.
I don't think we've ever had one.
No, we just.
Oh.
No, we haven't.
If we think of doing something, we always just do it.
We just say yes.
Yeah, and then it's obvious to both of us when it's finished.
Yeah, because also we never at the outset ever have a kind of outcome goal.
No.
So for us, it's really play oriented.
Oh, have we had enough of playing?
Yeah, exactly. Emily used to be a primary school teacher, and it really reminds her of kind of going into a classroom and just, you know, playing with material. But anyway, in terms of we've never yet had a disagreement.
No, we haven't.
And we have our different skills, I suppose, as well as being really, we just work together really well.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And then we divvy out what we're better at, each of us. So, you know, Emily's really good at writing and research.
It's
and I'm
quite
good at tech.
Yeah, it's quite good to have. We don't really have our egos in the mix. So
Thank
and
you.
Oh, one other thing really quickly before you ask the others, is that we've really discovered that working together, the work that we make together is really, although it's not a million miles away from what we do separately, it is really different from what we do as individual artists. But it's also given us as individual artists absolutely loads of underpinning of what we do, and research and confidence, and so yeah.
Thank you.
I think the word disagreement is quite interesting, because we never had disagreements either, but it depends what you term a disagreement. We made some sort of not exactly rules, but I don't know, intentions at the beginning, that we would be honest and we would be trusting, and if in our sort of, as we were editing or creating a poem, we said, you know, if one or the other had the freedom to cut anything, and equally we had the freedom to, if you wanted to keep something in, you had to advocate for it strongly. So and this was the process we did, which was quite rigorous, and it's quite challenging. And so perhaps some people would term that a disagreement, but I mean, I think like Nick and Emily have said, I think trust is really important, actually, and ego. I think once that's laid aside, and I don't know if that's a female thing, but certainly we were really conscious at the beginning, you just let go of ownership. And that seems to me to deal with the whole problem of disagreement, because if you let go of sole authorship or ownership of a line or a word or an idea, and it's actually there in the sort of arena in front of you, what you're talking about, then you don't have an axe to grind. You're just looking at the thing, you're not looking at your thing.
There's also the value you get from someone saying to you, that's a bit close to a cliche, or you've used that phrase before, or, oh, this is very soft and sweet, and where are we going with this? And you know, when someone says that to you and you have that slight stone sinking feeling of, damn it, she's right. So there's that, and also that as the more we worked together and the more it became apparent that this was an other voice, that we were both working towards the for the sake of the poem, which I guess is like repeating, it's not about ego, but it was really quite easy. And then we had a very rigorous editing process, and whole poems have gone because they don't fit, or because they're just not quite right, or one person has influenced them too much, they've gone. Yeah.
Can I just briefly ask, just as it related to another question in the chat, but somebody, sorry, both laughing, Nick and Emily were talking about that they have different roles. Do you have different roles as well? Do you bring different kind of skill sets to the collaboration, or I wonder if it's different for you as writers rather than artists?
Trying to think what's different. We might bring different focus of emotions. I always think of Rachel as tending towards the lighter, more joyous side, and I'm much more dark and angry. So that's a nice balance. We both do the editing. There was a question earlier about process. Essentially, one of us will start with a line or a word, and I think it's about this, it's in this ballpark, and then the other person will take it and play with it and send it back, and we'll play with it and play with it until at the end neither of us knows who's written it. I couldn't say, oh, that's my line or that's Rachel's line. It's like it's been cooked.
That's such a good way of putting it. Like, you've created something, there's a process, a chemical process that's been undergone through the process of working symbiotically like that. Absolutely fascinating. And I love collaboration. It's grist to my mill. Juliet and I are big collaborators. It's really interesting to hear this. I've seen the questions coming flying in, so I'm gonna roll back. We do have time for at least 2 more questions, I would say.
Can we grab the one from Heidi Williamson, which is about how can you all talk a little bit about how working with somebody else impacted on the development of your own work and voice?
Yeah, well, another poet, actually, Elizabeth Lewis Williams, who I collaborated on with another poem, pointed out that one of the fantastic things about collaboration is you have half the doubt and twice the encouragement, which is great, because when you're working on your own, I think anyone who's involved in writing or any creative project, you go through a lot of, oh God, it's not good enough. I can't say what I want to say, all this sort of stuff. And the fantastic thing is working in collaboration is that you've got somebody else to go, you're rarely in the same place at the same time. So when you're thinking, oh, this is all just shit, the other person can go, no, it's fine. Or, but also you've got the other person going, yeah, believe in it, it's good. And we found that was a fantastic, and we almost, I certainly did, I don't know, I had sort of post-collaboration trauma, I can't do it on my own, I'm gonna sink into this sort of slough of despond. But a collaboration is brilliant. I would urge everyone to try it.
And that, I think, in terms of how it influenced my own work. So I was already finishing a pamphlet. So last year I had a pamphlet called North by North North out, and it's very different from this. But I think with Rachel I've been more playful. And there's something about working with somebody else that enables the play. But also in working with Rachel, I think I really honed some of my editing skills. And so that benefited my own pamphlet, because I was able to look at it with a slightly more, not necessarily a critical eye, but I was able to let go of some stuff. And I think letting go has been a big part of collaboration.
Really interesting that themes come through again and again, as sort of releasing things, letting go of things, removing your hold on particular parts of your ego or your assumptions about how things have to work. I'm going to pass that question on to Nick and Emily, if you've got any.
I personally, I think that because we've leapt into things that we wouldn't normally do, such as we made a film with a filmmaker here, which was a Martha Rosler kind of homage to Semiotics of the Kitchen. And you know, we didn't have the technical know-how to do it, but we brought somebody else in, so we did another collaboration with her. But also but
I never would have made a film
no
on my own. Just
Emily,
never.
I don't know.
I do these sort of little drawings that end up being put together and quite big, but they're quite intimate and small and tentative, I would say. And making work with Nick, I've been it's just so different being able to.
And in my work, I feel like it's just I just I don't know, I've let go of rules. You know, I think some rules are really good, but not too many.
Part of the remit of what we've done is to make this manifesto for sort of subjective autobiographical drawing, and it's enabled me to kind of have a lot more confidence in the drawing that I'm making on my own.
Poor Emily, she's in the final throes of her PhD. So you know, this is the work that we've been doing is so much part of that. So she's going through that.
The work's been fun. Writing about it is less fun.
That's not always the way.
Definitely affected both of us to get, you know, to work together like this, and how we work individually.
Amazing. And Julia, I think we've got time for one more before we roll into our slightly shorter second half.
Let's have that question from lovely Alice. Hi, Alice Willits. What did you find the most surprising and delightful in the making of Knee to Knee? But that might also go for both Laughing for Enjambments as well. So what did you find most surprising and delightful for yourselves?
Are you asking Knee to Knee?
I think Rachel's already touched on how positive it is, how much you support each other, how much, and honestly, I hadn't realised how much easier it is to believe in a project where another person is involved than it is to believe in your own individual project. I had no doubts. I had absolute faith that this was good stuff. Even we sent it off to magazines and it didn't get taken. I still thought this is good stuff. So there's something that, again, it's that stepping back. It enabled me to go, yes, this is good, because it's not just about me. And maybe that says as much about my own self-deprecation or lack of self-esteem, that when it's just about me, it's harder. But about somebody else, it becomes a more generous, more I kind of want to do this kind of more expansive act with more possibilities. And I want to kind of capture that and take some of it for me, but it's shared.
I think, for me, the biggest sort of surprise and delight was how it just enlarges your field. You know, and I look at what we've written, and I know I couldn't have done that myself. And it's not necessarily, I couldn't have done it without Elv, I couldn't have done it without us, without the collaboration. And so the process of the sort of toing and froing, which is, I think, you know, it's quite laborious, you know, backwards and forwards and back, and you know, you put a lot sort of into it, possibly more than if you're sitting on your own but it also showed me what was possible. And I felt that pulled my work on, you know, when I look back at what I've been writing since we did the collaboration and what I was writing before then, it really has just opens up possibilities. That's what it's done. Was the big surprise for me. Yeah.
That I actually forgot where I was there at the end. I was like, oh wait, I have to say something now. I got lost in those words. I feel really moved by your readings. I just feel like there's something about the interplay of two voices as well. That's the imagery is really deepened. It's cinematic. I can, you know, I want to see the images at the same time. And for both of you, I just wanted to say also how much power there is amongst the four of you, and it's handled so lightly and so deftly, and with such humour. Everything I love. So thank you so much for your readings, your playing, and your interviews. It was really, really wonderful. We are going to have another quick Q&A session. It'll be a little bit shorter than the last one. As ever, we're running over just a little bit. But I wanted to make space for more questions. So many amazing comments have come through. Juliet, is there any question that we're going to lead with for this second Q&A?
Well, I don't think people have had time to get over that reading yet, which was just astonishing, just absolutely beautiful. But we could just scroll back up. I know there was a question about the punctuation marks on the page for Elvire and Rachel. I think it'd be really nice if we could just get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I was noticing I really wanted to pick that up. So within the book, there's a kind of legend, you know, like maps have a legend. I don't know if that shows. So there are essentially, there's what looks like, can I just have a look? So give it here. So there are three other elements apart from words, and one is that kind of pause sign, the two lines up and down, and that's about space and us making space, and it's like putting a crowbar in and crowbarring the world open and turning it and taking a different view. There's what we call the croquet hoop, and actually in maths that means an intersection of two sets, and so we use that as intersection between people, between us and the natural world, even though we're part of the natural world. So it's about intersections. And then our other symbol, if you like, our other
thing.
Well, I was trying to think of it as an artifact almost, but it's space, it's white space, and how we're using it on the page for breath and expansion and pause and consideration and the opportunity to turn and look and let the eye criticize or observe or celebrate. Those are the important roles of those marks.